Here we want to continue discussing complex numbers and really focus more on the multiplying of complex numbers instead of just adding and subtracting them. First, we remember what I is, and that I is the square root of -1. And what I want to do is look at what happens if I square both sides. On the left hand side, of course, we'll just call this I squared. But what happens on the right hand side? Well, the square and the square root are going to cancel with each other and leave us with just -1. Now, I know I've said a lot of times that if we take the square root of something squared, we should end up with plus or minus something, so like plus or minus 1. However, we're not taking the square root of something squared. What we're doing is squaring a square root. It's a subtle difference, but an important one. And it leaves us with this fact that I squared is equal to -1. And we can use that fact now to help us simplify this expression, 4i times the quantity 6 minus 2i. So, first thing we're going to want to do is the thing that we really want to do. We want to distribute. So go ahead and distribute. 4i times 6 is going to be 24i, just like you would think. And 4i times -2i, well, you multiply the 4 times -2 and get -8, and I times I makes I squared. This thing isn't simplified yet because of this I squared. We know that I squared is -1. So this expression is going to be 24i minus 8 times -1, or 24i plus 8. It looks like we've got everything simplified and everything looks great. However, this is a complex number, so we have to write it like a complex number. Remember that a complex number has two terms, which this expression does. However, the first term has to be the real number, and the second term has to be the imaginary number. So this is what our solution should be, 8 plus 2i. We could have a situation where we have one complex number times another complex number, and we do what we think we should do, and it looks like a foiling problem, which it is. So just FOIL like you think you should. Do firsts, 9 times 4, that's 36. Then do outsides, 9 times 7i, that'll leave us with plus 63i. Then we move to insides, -2i times 4 is -8i. And finally lasts, -2i plus 7i will leave us with -14i squared. We've FOILed correctly, it's all spread out, but now we need to just kind of clean it up and simplify this expression. The first thing is all the way at the end. The I squared, that's really equal to -1. So we have this entire term is really -14 times -1, so that'll turn into positive 14. Then it's just combine like terms. The first like terms I want to combine are the two real parts. 36 plus 14 is 50. Then I do the two imaginary parts in the middle. 63 minus 8 makes 55, so this is going to be plus 55i. Make sure that your answer is in the right form, meaning that it's got two terms. The first term is the real term, and the second term is the imaginary term, which this is, so we're good. We could also run into the problem of needing to simplify a fraction. This fraction isn't simplified because it has a square root in the denominator. It isn't spelled out as a square root, however this I, remember, is the square root of -1. And that's what we need to get out of there. So we're going to do that the same way that we did before, and that's by multiplying by the conjugate. And the conjugate of 2 plus 6i is going to be 2 minus 6i. So we multiply numerator and denominator by that conjugate. In the numerator, we just distribute the 5. So 5 times 2 is going to give us 10, and 5 times -6i would be -30i. In the denominator, we need to FOIL it out. However, just like before, we're multiplying by conjugate, so that'll give us the difference of two squares. We square the first thing, 2 times 2, that'll give us 4. If we were to FOIL it out, then the outsides would give us negative 12i, and the insides would give us positive 12i, and those would cancel. That's why we kind of went with conjugates. But to simplify, we square the first term, and now we square the second one. So plus 6i times negative 6i would give us negative 36i squared. So we've done all the multiplying correctly. Now we just have to simplify. So we go ahead, leave that numerator the same for a minute, and just simplify the denominator. We'll have 4. And this I squared turns into negative 1. So negative 36 times negative 1 is positive 36. And my whole fraction is now 10 minus 30i over 40. Which looks nice and simple, but we got one problem. It's a complex number. So we need to write it like it's a complex number, which means we have to split it up into two terms. We do that just by going 10 divided by 40 minus 30 divided by 40. Now we have a real term first and the imaginary term second. But we are still talking about fractions, so go ahead and simplify your fraction. 10 divided by 40 is 1/4. 30 divided by 40 is 3/4. So there's our final simplified answer of negative 1/4 minus 3/4 I. The key to this problem happens right at the beginning. Make sure that you multiply numerator and denominator by the conjugate, and that's what makes this problem get simplified.